Hi, I'm Fred Satilli, and I'm here to talk about minority rights and the protection of minority rights. A democracy is a very simple form of government. In the country, each person gets one vote. At the end, the votes are tallied up, and whatever the majority, at least 50% plus one, at least whatever they decide, that is now the course of the nation. Now, in a case like that, if you convince more than half the people to, as an example, say there's a family that lives way out in the woods and they have bears and coyotes coming, if 51% of the people say those people have to give up their guns, well, those people have to give up their guns. They're not protected in any way from mob rule, from majority rule. And it's easy to sway a majority. It's easy to create propaganda to drive people to vote a certain way, even when it's not in everybody's interest, especially a minority. Now, in a republic, you also have voting, but before you vote, there is a Charter of Rights, or a constitution, that protects certain rights that are considered inalienable. In other words, no matter what the majority says, you still have a right to practice your religion, or to protect yourself with a firearm, or to not be a slave. Right? We have the 14th Amendment. Slavery is not legal. If 51% of the people say, you know what, I think I'd like to have slaves again, they can't, because it's unlawful. It's against the Republican Constitution, the Republican Charter of Rights. So you can see from this explanation, I've tried to make it as simple as possible, a Republican form of government protects minority rights. Before the general election, each political party has its primary election. This is where the party decides who its candidate will be in the general election. Now, as we learned from the Democrat National Committee's primary, where there was quite a debacle with Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders, what we learned there was the party is not really responsible to the entire rank and file of its party nationwide. It's only responsible internally. It's a private company, not a public interest. And those people, despite Bernie's popularity and despite Bernie's efforts to become their candidate, there was some very serious hanky-panky, and Hillary Clinton was selected as their candidate. Bernie got screwed. This party did not use a democratic system to elect its candidate. It used a small group of representatives, which a small group of representatives elected by the people is actually the Republican system, but the Democrat Party did not use a democratic system to select its candidate. Insiders selected it, not the entire party. It wasn't very democratic. I find this hypocritical, to say the least. You may have noticed that I don't call the Democrat Party the Democratic Party. And the reason that I don't is because the Democratic Party would be a misnomer. Since what they do is not democratic, democratic is an adjective. It describes. Democrat is the name, and if they act in a democratic way, then and only then are they democratic. The Democrat Party is not a democratic organization. In this country here in America, we don't have a democratic form of selecting our representatives. So, even though lots of people like to say the Democratic Party, it's a misnomer, and in my opinion, it's wrong. You see, the governing body of the Democrats here in California is the Democratic State Central Committee, the DSCC. This is a very small group of people who decide who the candidate will be. You don't decide. The committee is usually made up of about 2,800 to 3,200 what they call delegates. Now, these delegates are special people. They're selected by the DSCC. So the group itself selects the delegates to decide who's going to be the leader. All the rest of the Democrats in California are out, and everybody else is out too, because the state is run by Democrats. It's a supermajority, so the Republicans, the Independents, the Libertarians, whatever they may be, they don't matter at all. The monopoly group has got a very small group of people who picked not only the winner, but they also pick the loser, ensuring the victory of the winner. Because in California, we have top two, and that's going to be something we'll talk about in another video. We can't have a Republican, a Democrat, an Independent, and a Green Party person on the ballot. In California, it's only two. And this group of 28 to 3,200 people are the ones that basically select those two, and then they toss them over to us, and they tell us to go ahead and vote in a fair election and everything, but it's not. It's not. It's not a fair election at all. It's not a majority rule. It's not a Republican form. It's none of these things. So when was the last time you, Mr. Regular Guy, or Miss or Mrs. Regular Girl, when was the last time you were able to pick your leader? Never. You were never allowed to. They were always selected ahead of time by the delegates. And not all 2,800 to 3,200 delegates, only half of that plus one. So 1,400 to 1,601 people had to be approached by politicians and lobbyists, people who, you know, the teachers union, the SEIU, immigration groups, you know, big industry, big oil, big pharma, whatever it may be, the tech industry, maybe Hollywood. These are the people who select the leader, and then they throw it out to you as if with the pretense of a fair election. At the end, they always say, the people have spoken, but the people haven't spoken. The people were victimized. Now, when you have a very small group like that that picks your leader, and then those are the people that to control that leader, there's a word for a group like that, and the word is oligarchy. And we all know oligarchy because on TV, all you ever hear about is Russian oligarchs, Russian oligarchs. Well, we have oligarchies right here in America, and you can believe that. Why does the government in California operate this way? Why do the people just allow it? Why does the Republican Party allow it? You'd have to ask them, why do you do this? But you already know the answer. It's very simple. KGB style, centralized power. Is that the way you think that California should run? When I started this video, I said that I was going to talk about minority rights. It's the point of the video. And what I think is we need a government where the representatives are selected by the people. And those representatives, their actions conform to the law of the Constitution that is there to protect minority rights. As a member of a very small minority myself, and as a member of a very endangered minority right now, I want my rights protected. I think that all members of all minorities want their rights protected, and I think that the vast majority of the majority is compassionate towards the minority and minority rights. And this is why I really do believe that everybody wants a political system where their vote matters, where their vote counts. And I feel that we have to demand that. Well, how do the rest of you minorities feel, but how do you all feel about that? Does what I'm saying here make sense to you? Or would you rather have the oligarchy that's controlled by the banks, the special interest groups, decide who your representatives are? I'd like to know. Thank you for your attention.